Why connecting the dots is a theme for the Golden State Warriors after their Game 1 preseason win over the Lakers. I got Matt Kolsky on the show to break it down.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Charlie Walter. This show is brought to you Monday through Friday. You can check it out on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcast. Matt Kolsky joins the program today. We're going to talk about the high IQ dubs and why connecting the dots is not just a puzzle that we potentially all played growing up. Were you a connect the dots guy, Kolsky?
Sure. I'd love to connect dots.
Of course.
Maybe a paint by numbers if we're really going for it, you know.
Yes, but connecting the dots, why that's important. Al's impact, Al Horford, why his Game 1 of the preseason performance should make everyone excited. Moses Moody's shot, why the UCL surgery actually helped him, he believes. And then Jonathan Kuminga's role. That is what we are getting into on today's program. I'm excited, man, not only to have basketball back, but to watch a team yesterday that looked like a continued version of last year, which was a good squad. We sometimes forget and just act like, you know, the team wasn't championship contenders, and we don't know. There was that injury, though. Second half of the season, they were winning games. We know that. We know how important chemistry is in sport, and it looked like they had a bunch of chemistry. And it looked like everyone knew how to play their role. Now, the thing that I bring up is Pat Spencer, who played 21 minutes the most for the Warriors, said this after the game, quote of the season thus far, not saying much, we're a preseason game in, but he said, quote, if you're a guy who can connect the dots, but also do some other things, knock down the three ball, there's always a place for you in the league. Unfortunately, there's a lot of organizations that are stuck at the bottom that continue to value length and athleticism over IQ, and those teams are consistently in the lottery. I think this is just the memo. This is just the mentality that the Warriors have, connecting the dots. And you saw it perfectly yesterday from everyone, truly. I mean, it's all about the extra pass. It's all about finding the open man. It's all about getting easy looks, attention to detail. And I thought the Warriors displayed it brilliantly once again yesterday, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny quote from Pat Spencer because the implications that he's trying to suggest are clear. You want to guess what his career three-point shooting percentage is?
38?
20.8. So he's not that guy. He might think he's that guy. The reason Pat Spencer's on the Warriors is because Steve Kerr loves him for some reason. But that doesn't mean that what he said isn't true, because what he said is very true. It's just that the player he's talking about is Al Horford, as you pointed out, right? Pat Spencer's not here to connect dots or shoot threes or do anything except stay on the bench until the game is decided. Al Horford is here to connect dots. Al Horford is here to knock down three-pointers, and he showed you last night he's here to block shots too. And look, we don't really care about Al Horford scoring. It's a nice boost. The fact that he is a threat from three will open up the floor. Those are all good things. If he shoots 30% from three, it's not going to be a big problem, because what he is here for is to be a dot connector, is to play defense, is to be a guy that changes the way the floor is shaped when the Warriors are at their best. And it could really be huge. I mean, we've said it a lot, but they've just never had a guy like Al Horford in the middle during this entire run.
No, I mean, Curry's only had 3 or 4 bigs that averaged a 3 per game. I think the list was like Cousins. The list was, I mean.
Yes, the Boogie Cousins era, which we all remember fondly. But yeah, it's just not there. He's had good centers, right? Andrew Bogut was a very good center. Obviously, Draymond Green.
Saric was one of the best 3-point shooters he's had as a big. Seriously.
They have not had that element. You really got to go all the way back to Mo Spates, and he, big is a bit of a stretch when describing. He's more stretched than big, I guess. Most
I'm kind of shocked, though, dude. Pat Spencer's only a 20% 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I keep telling you guys he stinks, but whatever. It's honestly not worth talking about. He's a player that is not worth talking about, and the fact that he had the audacity to suggest that if bad teams looked at guys like Pat Spencer, they'd be in better shape is absurd. I mean, it's completely insane. But we don't need to get into that.
I think he's throwing jabs at teams like the Hornets, though, that have all these athletes and that have all this talent or whatever, but they don't connect the dots. They don't make the extra pass. They go for their own. And I think it ties into Jonathan Kuminga perfectly, because that's what a lot of the gripe has been about Kuminga from time to time. Like, he goes for his own instead of making the right play. And yesterday, it was so selfless to the point where at one point I'm thinking, all right, Kuminga, it's preseason. Why don't you go with a little ISO? Go for yours. But dude, every time he touched the ball, it seemed like good things happened. He would, outlet up to Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield would go in for a layup. He'd run the fast break, find Buddy on a little baseline cut. Buddy, easy layup. He'd make an extra pass, or he got a rebound one time off a Pod's miss. And within a half second, he didn't look for his own. Within a half second, he whipped that thing back to the corner. Pod's three, bang. Truly, whether it was defensively, whether it was making the extra pass, whether it was slowing the game down and not rushing through things, and then rushing through things when he needed to and making the right play. I just thought Kuminga was a really good dot connector yesterday. And that's an underrated thing in the game of basketball, because all these teams have talent. It's the NBA. All these teams have talent. The difference is roles, and I guess having Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. That's a big difference, because
that helps. Yeah.
Dogs, man. I mean, Steph looked unbelievable yesterday.
Yeah, I thought the best example of that dot connecting thing was that give and go with Horford that he had, where he got the and one and pointed at the camera. It was, Steph, I won't say midseason form, but he's ready to go. I was really glad that Steve Kerr put all those guys on the floor. I mean, there's no reason they needed to play more than the 15 minutes they did, but just getting to see those guys out there running up and down together, getting Al Horford on an actual NBA floor with those dudes to start to build the chemistry, the dot connecting stuff you're talking about, that was all huge. As far as Kuminga, I'm hesitant to make a pledge, but what I would like is, now that, the contract is settled, he can't be traded until January 15th, at least until we get to January 15th. This is the part of Kuminga I would like to talk about, because I have been so busy defending him from the way I feel like he's been treated that I haven't had a chance to really criticize the guy. And there's plenty about his game that I think can be criticized. And the complaint, to your point, has always been, we know you're talented. We know you can score a bit, but can you be what this team needs right now? And the answer has pretty much been no. Whatever we want to argue about why the answer is no, the answer has pretty much been no. It's not that he hasn't shown the stuff you saw last night before. It's that the approach seemed specifically different. Now, this is one preseason game. All right. But I honestly believe, and maybe this is my own naivety, but I honestly believe still that if we see that Jonathan Kuminga, and it's not just not shooting all the time, he was on the floor for 15 minutes. He shot it 3 times. He had 6 boards and 4 assists. Now, look, I'm not saying it's always going to be that tilted towards the rebounds and assists. But if Jonathan Kuminga can combine for a total of 10 rebounds and assists anytime he plays, he's going to play a lot more. And Steve Kerr is going to be a lot less frustrated with what he's doing. And I would venture Steve Kerr will probably even let him do a little more one-on-one stuff if he's doing that other stuff first. So what does it mean in the grand scheme of things? Not much. It's one preseason game. He played 15 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. But if he starts playing like that every night, it's a very big deal.
And I think it goes back to 2022 when you'd see Jordan Poole's role shift a little bit. When everyone was healthy, he was kind of, third in charge, fourth in charge, whatever, depending on how you viewed Wiggins and Clay at that point in the season, especially with Clay coming back from injury. But he was always kind of right in the mix, but never really one of the main dudes. Curry has a load management night. Curry and Clay are out at the same time. And Jordan Poole was immediately the guy that was going to keep you in games. And that's kind of what Kuminga can be. It's like, all right, buy into this version. Every time we need you to be this version, you're going to score too. Especially
I think
if
that's
you're
the
on the
argument.
floor. If you're on the floor with Jimmy and Steph, you're gonna score.
Right.
Just do these other things. Focus on these other things. The points will come naturally. And then when you have those other nights, we're gonna need you to play a little bit differently. We're gonna need you to play off Pods and Moody. And there are gonna be times where your ISO game is massive. And truly, look at what Jimmy Butler does when he ISOs and try to be a copycat, because the build is not that much different. Sure, the processing time, it may never be up to Jimmy's speed. I mean, there are just people that get it, and there are people that don't get it as much. And he's never going to be Jimmy Butler.
No.
But you have him right in front of you. Watch the tape, see what he does well, and try to mimic some things.
And frankly, Kuminga's a much better athlete than Butler was even at his peak. So no, he'll never be Jimmy Butler, but I think he can be a very effective player and still potentially like a star level player. Here's the thing that I think the Warriors will try to sell to him. It's two parts. One is the part you just said, right? Buy in to this when we need this. And then there are going to be plenty of moments this season when load management or someone gets hurt, or maybe it's just an off night for Jimmy, where we're going to say to you, go score now. Like, you're still going to have those opportunities. You'll be able to show that off. Frankly, we, the Warriors, need you to show that off just in case we want to trade you. So you're going to have those opportunities, but you're going to have more of them if you buy into what we're asking of you right now. And this was a good start for whatever that's worth. The second part, though, and I would imagine Steve in particular is trying to sell this to Kuminga. Look at Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. When they're not doing the superstar stuff, they're doing all the little things right.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler doesn't come out and score 28 points every night. But when he's not scoring, he's rebounding, he's defending, he's doing all the little things right. Steph Curry might have an off shooting night, but Steph Curry does not have nights where he's spaced out. Steph Curry doesn't have nights where he doesn't contribute. That's not a thing. The really great stars in this league, and this is what I would say to Kuminga, like, you can want that stardom. You can want to start and close games and have the ball in your hands in the biggest moments. And I love that for you. I hope you get there, but you're never going to get there if you don't also do the little things. All the best stars also do the little things. So, we'll see if they can sell him on that. And if they do, how long it lasts. But if there, to me, there is still this, maybe it's a 5% chance now, but there's still this opportunity to reclaim something and keep Jonathan Kuminga as a functional part of the current Warriors and a more important part of the future Warriors.
Coming up, let's break down Moses Moody's performance and discuss how good we think he can be this upcoming season. That's straight ahead.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Today's episode is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel. Perfect time to get in on the action because the NFL season is here. The NBA season is here. The MLB playoffs are underway. And it's a great time to be a new customer because you can bet just $5 and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That is right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Best parts of FanDuel, they got lines for preseason, they got lines for postseason. You can find action anywhere. If you missed the start of the game, you got live lines. If you want a little cheese, a nice return on your investment, and don't care about waiting longer, you can go with futures bets and bet who's going to win the NBA championship, like the Golden State Warriors, who sit at plus 2,700 right now. 10 to win 270? Sign me up. You also got parlays, player props. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today. That is how you get started.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
You look back at the Kings offer that was on the table, and let's say it would have involved Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga to get a player like Malik Monk. And, in the moment, in the heat of battle, everyone's pissed off at Kuminga. There are plenty of people that say, make that trade. Mike Loganoff on the show said, come on, do it. There are a million Moodys out there. But after the way that Moses Moody played in this game, entering year 5, a former lottery pick, the shot looked really nice. Actually says that the UCL surgery that he had on his right thumb in the offseason is reason why he could only use his left hand and kind of got back to the basics, simplified things, figured out what he was doing wrong. it looked clean coming out of the hands, man. I mean, everything was a perfect swish, was doing it off movement, didn't need a lot of separation. Even tried a heat check at one point where he pulled up from like 32 feet away. And I'm like, all right, if he has that in his bag, then we're looking at a completely different Moses Moody. Defensively, wasn't a large enough sample size to really make a claim one way or the other, but he looked good in the minutes that he had in his 15. Is there a chance this year that Moses Moody really breaks out? He's already been good. He's gotten consistently better every season in the NBA. But I think when you compare him to most lottery picks, you would say that the ones that are still in the league, he's about equal to or less than. He's not really greater than most of them that are still in the league. Is there a chance that he could be one of the better guys from this draft this season when it's all said and done?
Oof, it's a pretty good draft, actually, when you look at it. He was the 14th pick, so I mean, he is technically a lottery pick.
So let's look at the guys around him, like Trey Murphy, Corey Kispert, like that level of player. You think he can be better than those guys?
I think he's better than all of them except for Trey Murphy. And Trey
Sengun
Murphy
went behind him. I mean, that's a tough comparison.
Very different. Yeah. But clearly Sengun is a better player than Moses Moody right now, right? There's no debating that. I'm not sure anybody could have seen that coming. They'd seen the current Sengun coming, or else he would have been picked in the top 5. But I think Moses is about right for a late lottery pick, especially when you consider like he hasn't had a ton of opportunity. It hasn't been the same story as it was with Kuminga because he's not quite the same like sparkling athlete that makes people take notice. But in terms of his actual opportunity to play and improve, it hasn't been a ton, and he's been pretty consistently getting better over the course of his entire career. I've always loved the jumper. Like when he first showed up, I thought the jumper was better than I expected. And honestly, I didn't understand what was going on last year until we got the report of the injury, and it made a lot of sense to me. So it does not surprise. I mean, he's not going to shoot 5 of 7 every night, but it doesn't surprise me.
37% though. 37% last year. Like he was good throughout the course of the season. We just have that sour taste in our mouth from the playoffs where he couldn't hit anything. Yeah,
but look, Trey Murphy is the proof. A really high-level 3-and-D guy is an incredibly valuable commodity in the NBA, both as an asset and on your team. And when you have a small guard who's your superstar, like Steph Curry, a longer, bigger potential 2-guard next to him in Moses Moody, there's a lot of attractive things about that,
And he looks bigger, and he looks more confident too.
That dunk he had in the first quarter, he wasn't finishing that with a dunk his first couple years in the league. He's just slowly improving, and I do think he's going to get some more opportunity this year. I am really interested to see what happens with the guard rotation, given that the guy Steve Kerr chose to start last year is the guy who's missing.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the issue that they have, and it's a good problem to have, the old good problem to have when you have too many guys for positions there.
Right, but like, okay, Melton isn't even signed yet, right? Because they can't sign 15 guys until, sometime in November.
No, Melton signed. He was on the bench.
He was on the bench, but I don't think he can be signed. Like this 15-man thing, one of these guys is not officially on the roster yet. I'm pretty sure.
Seth Curry's on an Exhibit 9 is what it is.
Okay. All right. So even so, Melton on the roster. Let's say Melton comes back at the end of November. Okay. He's ready to play at the end of November. You've had a guard rotation where Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski are playing lights out. This is an imaginary scenario.
And Buddy Hield's going to get his run.
Hield's going to get his run as a 3-point shooter off the bench. Maybe Seth has played, a couple of games and he's shooting 50% from 3. What are we doing with DeAnthony Melton? You're going to take a guy off an ACL and bench your 2 young players who are playing well, or bench Buddy Hield? Or is he just going to be in the Seth role way at the bottom? Or is this just injury protection? Like, it is going to be fascinating to watch.
Clearly, he's taking over for Pat Spencer because as of right now, no, I'm serious, dude. If based on the rotations yesterday, they were strategically placed. Like Pat Spencer, as of right now, is somewhat a part of the plan, or he wouldn't have gotten 21 minutes yesterday and been in the first rotation off the bench. Truly, because
I honestly
like he was throwing in Santos in the first half. It's not like he was throwing in Will Richard in the first half. Like I would have to imagine, based on the fact that Kerr played him with some of the starters at times, that Pat Spencer right now is your secondary ball handler off the bench for a few minutes here and there, and that's where Melton would take over a spot, you would hope. He likes Spencer, man. I know.
To play Pat Spencer over Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, and Seth Curry it's malpractice. I don't know. There's no other way to say it. I really hope that's not going to happen. Like, I don't know what else to say. I can't argue with you. Like, you're right. That's what it looked like last night. I mean, it's one preseason game. Hopefully it's meaningless. But like,
he was playing playoffs. Like, he was getting 15 minutes in playoff games last year.
But they didn't have the same depth, and these young guys were younger. He was
that depth
playoffs.
is hurt. That depth is hurt. The only player that you're talking about right now is D'Anthony Melton, because Seth Curry.
Well, but Seth too. Seth Curry is provably a much better basketball player than Pat Spencer. It's just not even
handles wise. I don't watch enough Seth Curry to tell you whether he's going to be someone that
he's played plenty of point guard over the last few years to be as good of a ball handler as Pat Spencer. Like, Pat Spencer is not Kyrie Irving here. Well, I know Steve loves him, and it's okay to love a guy. But there's no excuse for playing Pat Spencer legitimate minutes in the early season when you have Moody, Podziemski, Hield, and Seth Curry available.
Now, Kolsky, I do have to give the disclaimer out. We did the radio together back in the day at 95.7, and we were saying the same thing about Ty Jerome, and he ended up being a pretty nice player. Now, physically, I think Jerome has some more gifts and proved it at the collegiate level as a national champion with Virginia. And I mean, Pat Spencer, kind of a late bloomer that I didn't even know was going to be on a two-way contract this season. But you never know. I mean, Steve
he's
Kerr
also on a two-way, right? I mean, that means he's limited in how many games he can play too. Like, I have to imagine Pat Spencer is primarily here for injury cover. I just cannot see it another way.
That's the weirdest thing about it. On a two-way, but leads the team in minutes.
Well, it is preseason,
like first and second half. Yeah, but it just seemed very strategically.
You're right. It was the first half that was weird. It's not weird that he played 20 minutes or that he played a lot of the second half. It's weird that he seemed to be coming in during the portion of the game where it otherwise looked like Steve Kerr was playing regular season rotations.
Yeah, for sure.
But also, I think we expect Al Horford to start, right? And that didn't happen last night. Like,
do we?
I think we do. Because even though what Steve said after the game was like that lineup that he started was their best lineup last year, basically. But he also said he still doesn't want to play Draymond major minutes at the 5 in the regular season. So I just don't think it makes sense to start that lineup.
I think he'll start that lineup to begin the year. I do.
Okay.
But only for a few minutes. And I think Horford will come off the bench.
For whoever of Podziemski and Moody isn't playing, is playing worse, basically.
Straight ahead, we debate what the Dubs calling card will be this season. I think we know the answer, but we give our explanations on why. That's coming up. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, that's when you end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, it is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. One of my favorite things is you can see how much you're spending in a certain month. You can set budgets. You can also set goals and reach those goals by, again, using that budget tool and also figuring out what you're spending your money on that you don't need to. Subscriptions that you're not using, that sort of thing. Monarch's going to pull it out for you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser. You'll get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
And I did like the lineup, to be honest with you. That was Kuminga, it was Buddy Hield, it was Moses Moody, it was Podziemski, and then I believe it was Post out there. I like that lineup. I thought there was there were like 9 straight possessions where there was an assisted 3. It felt like everyone out there could shoot. I mean, think about that. I mean, Kuminga's your worst 3-point shooter out there, and he can at least knock one down, keep you honest.
Yeah, I mean, he had Kuminga had a rough shooting year last year, as I remember it, but he's had some good stretches, certainly. And it's part of his game that you would hope is getting better. But I think in general, there's a lot of really cool bench combinations that they can play.
It scares me. There's too many.
Well, maybe, but I just, until we see Pat Spencer playing minutes in the regular season, until we see GP2 on the court for 20 plus minutes, I am gonna assume that those guys are primarily here for injury cover, and in GP2's case, for specialist work, right? We really need someone to lock down this 2-guard tonight. Can you get out there and do some work?
GP2 look good though. Santos even looked good. I mean, granted, it's the Lakers' third string guys, but Santos is technically a third string guy, right? So
everybody looked pretty good last night, didn't they?
Yeah,
I mean, it was really all around. It was a night that made you feel really good about what the Warriors have, as much as a preseason game against a Lakers missing their top 3 players could possibly make you feel good.
What do you think about the Lakers depth? Because that obviously is a storyline of itself this season. The Warriors and the Lakers are going to be fighting for, you would imagine, a postseason spot, along with the Clippers and the Nuggets and the Rockets. And there are like 6-7 teams that you would have to assume will be fighting for those 6 spots. Did their performance yesterday, Bronny James getting, I mean, dude, I'm going to get my thumbnail photo for the podcast after the game, and I'm typing Steph Curry. I got like one photo. I type Moses Moody. There's not a single stock image.
It's Bronny everywhere.
Every image is freaking Bronny James. And I'm like,
hey, he had a putback dunk, man. No, actually, I think Bronny's going to be a decent bench player for them. Kind of a GP2.
Completely.
I think he's kind of a GP2 type of player, to be honest with you. That
I disagree completely. I'll bet you some dinner on that for later in the season. If he does anything for the Lakers, I'll buy you dinner. How's that sound?
We have to define what that means, because like I said, I think he can be a decent bench player for them.
By the way, let me ask you this. Would you rather have DeAndre Ayton or Al Horford?
Al Horford. Actually, there's one thing that worries me about last night as far as the Lakers go. And it is an old friend of the Warriors by the name of Jake LaRavia. That dude eats Warriors for dinner. And I don't know why. He's a otherwise fine but not special NBA player. But I feel like, man, every time the Grizzlies came to town, Jake LaRavia was going nuts. And it's just I hate to see one of those dudes on a team that the Warriors are in direct competition with. But generally, like, you can't say anything about the Lakers after last night that you couldn't say a year ago. Like, without Luka and Reeves and LeBron, this is not an NBA contender in any realm that you can imagine. It is a collection of just a dudes. It's LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, and a bunch of dudes. And the dudes were the ones who played last night. So, look, Jared Vanderbilt's a nice player. He can be tough for the Warriors to deal with. Ayton is bigger than anyone on the Warriors, which I guess could be a problem if he suddenly remembers how to play basketball. But it's the LaRavias of the world that scare me in these situations. I don't know why. I think because you look at him and you're like, not that guy. But he does. He sticks it to him.
Yeah, man, we are so blessed to be able to watch Steph Curry still at this level, at this age. I mean, he was phenomenal. Jimmy Butler is just such a perfect complementary star to be around Steph Curry. And he's got a great chemistry and telepathic communication with Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Depending on who's ever cutting. Now, Draymond, he smokes the layups consistently to where Jimmy, and Jimmy's not going to say anything to Draymond. He's just going to say it to Buddy when he misses the wide open 3. He's going to give him one of those. But
that's right.
The fact that we're still watching Steph Curry at this level, anyone listening to this show, just count your blessings. Like, it's so damn awesome how good he is. And then defensively, the fact that we're going to see a defense with Al Horford, who's still really good despite his age, and Draymond Green at the same time. And that's a 2 guys
and
that are
Jimmy.
going to and Jimmy. Those are 3 guys that are going to complement each other very nicely. Steph, I think, can be really good defensively too on this team. And then if Moody's your point of attack, or Kuminga really picks it up defensively, Pods is a pretty good on-ball defender. He's good, weak side when he comes over for the trap. That's something he's real good at, getting steals. So, I mean, there are some dudes on this team that make you think that the Warriors could have a really, really good defense.
They went from being mediocre to poor defensively last year to being one of the best defensive teams in the league when they traded for Jimmy Butler. And it's not like Andrew Wiggins was a defensive loser or anything, right? They traded a good defender for Jimmy Butler, and they shot up the defensive rankings, especially in taking the ball away. And I can only imagine that in the same way that offensive chemistry grows, defensive chemistry grows. It was already at such a high level just because Draymond and Jimmy are so smart, and they have spent so much time committed to figuring out how to defend in the NBA. But like you said, add Horford to that. I mean, that is a front line that is as good as any defensive front line ever, basically. Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford is as good a 3-4-5 defensive unit as you could put out there. And look, Steph is never going to be defensive player of the year, but he knows where to be and he works hard on that end. And obviously Moody is a good defender and Podziemski is getting better. Like this is a threatening defensive team. And Kuminga can be criticized for his team defense, but I think we've seen consistently for years now, if you have one pretty big dude that's giving you trouble, he can go out there and do a job on him. They just got a lot of options defensively, all the way down to Gary Payton. And yeah, that's going to be the backbone of this team. If this team wants to do real damage, of course, Steph Curry has to be great. Al has to stay healthy. Jimmy has to score and defend, but it's going to be a team with a defensive identity at the end of the day. Because other than Steph, almost all of these guys are defensive players first.
And let's not forget D'Anthony Melton. That's one of his calling cards. So we'll see how healthy he is and how well he's moving. But he's a good defender as well that you add to the fold. Thanks for making Locked On your first listen of every day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast. It gives you daily tips, helps you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We got the Blazers on Wednesday, Kolsky. You skipped out on me yesterday. You had a sick child. I'll give you the free pass there. Tell him to heal up, please. Give him the Motrin, and we'll see you Wednesday.
He had strep throat. He's now, antibioticized, so he's not contagious. We're good to go. I'll be ready for Wednesday.
Let's do it. Chuck, Walter, Matt Kolsky. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Basketball is back. Woo!
Yes!